The research ship Horizon moved slowly through the dark space near the border of alien territory. Most of the crew was busy with data collection, but Aaron had been sent on a more simple task. He was a young technician with steady hands and quick thinking, though many saw him only as the quiet worker who fixed machines when they broke. On this day, his duty was to repair a communication relay that had stopped working near a small asteroid cluster. Aaron did not mind the work. The shuttle ride gave him some time away from the noise of the main ship. He liked the silence of space. It reminded him that even though humans had only just begun to spread beyond their home planet, they were now explorers of the stars. His mind often drifted with thoughts of what lay beyond the unknown. The repair was going smoothly. He floated carefully in his suit, tools in hand, adjusting loose panels and testing the signal strength. As the machine began to hum back to life, he allowed himself a small smile. Fixing things gave him comfort. But then the hum of his repair was replaced by another sound. A low rumble came through his comms, followed by a blinding light. His shuttle shook as if caught in a storm. Aaron looked up, and his heart raced. A massive vessel had appeared above the asteroid cluster, blocking the distant stars. Its hull was covered with glowing lines that looked like veins of fire across stone. This was no human ship. Before he could react, a tractor beam locked onto his shuttle. The force pulled him in like a fish caught in a net. He tried to break free, but the controls refused his commands. His comms to the horizon only gave static. Aaron's hands tightened on the seat as the alien ship grew larger and larger before his eyes. The shuttle was swallowed by an opening in the vessel's side. The moment it touched the floor, the power shut down completely. Aaron sat still, listening to his heartbeat. The ramp lowered with a hiss, and he saw figures waiting in the glowing hall beyond. Tall, armored guards with silver masks stood in 2 rows. Between them walked a figure unlike any Aaron had ever seen. She was tall, her steps graceful, and her long robe shimmered with soft shades of blue and white. Her face carried sharp, noble features, and her eyes shone like polished steel. A crown of metal leaves rested upon her dark hair. Even in the tense silence, she carried herself like someone born to rule. Aaron's mouth went dry. He had heard of alien royalty before, though humans had little real contact with such high figures. This must be one of them. The thought both terrified and amazed him. The princess stopped at the foot of the shuttle's ramp. She raised a staff with a crystal at its tip, and her voice rang through the chamber, translated by his suit. "Human," she said, calm but commanding. "You stand within the domain of the Ilari Empire. Speak and explain why you trespass near our border." Aaron swallowed. He had no script for this moment. His mission had been simple: fix a relay, return to Horizon, and file a report. Now he was staring at an alien princess with guards ready to strike if he made one wrong move. "I was repairing a relay," he said carefully. "I did not mean to enter your space. My ship is close by. I can leave as soon as you wish." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if weighing his words. The hall was silent. Aaron's nerves began to climb higher. He was not a soldier or a diplomat. He was just a technician with a toolkit and a shuttle. How was he supposed to handle this? In a moment of panic, his instinct was to do what he often did when nervous: make a small joke. He had once used humor to calm himself in stressful situations. Without thinking, he let out a short laugh and said, "You would make a cute wife." The words left his mouth before his brain could stop them. He froze. His stomach dropped. What had he just said to an alien princess surrounded by guards? The hall turned quiet in a way that felt heavy. The guards stiffened, their masked faces unreadable. The princess herself did not move at first. Her steel-like eyes locked onto him, and Aaron wished he could pull the words back into his mouth. Then, after a long pause, she lowered her staff. Her lips parted, and she spoke clearly. "I accept." Aaron blinked, stunned. He thought for a moment that the translator had made a mistake. "What?" he whispered. The princess straightened her shoulders. "I accept your proposal," she said again. The guards around her instantly dropped to one knee, bowing their heads. Their voices rose together in a chant he could not understand. The sound echoed through the chamber, filling Aaron with a wave of dread. His hands trembled as he looked around. This had to be some kind of cultural misunderstanding. On his world, his words were only a careless joke. Here, among the Ilari, they carried a weight he could not yet grasp. The princess stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "From this moment, you are bound to me. By the laws of my people, your words are binding. You will stand as my chosen partner." Aaron's mind spun. His mouth opened, but no words came. He was a technician, not a prince. He had never been in love, never thought about marriage, and certainly never imagined it would happen like this. He wanted to explain, to tell her she had misunderstood, but the guard's stares kept him silent. He realized then that one careless joke had changed everything. What would the Horizon think when they discovered he was now tied to an alien princess? What would her empire do if he tried to back away? The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, and for the first time in his life, Aaron felt the full force of what it meant to be human standing alone among the stars. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet thought whispered that his life would never be the same again. Aaron stood frozen inside the great chamber of the alien ship. His mind could not process what had just happened. The princess, tall and proud in her shining robe, had accepted his careless joke as a marriage proposal. Her guards still knelt, their heads bowed, their voices steady in a chant that filled the hall. His first thought was to correct her, to explain that his words were not serious, that humans often used humor in strange moments. But his throat tightened. He could not find the courage to speak. Every eye in the room was on him, and he felt as though one wrong word could turn their respect into fury. The princess raised her hand, and the chanting stopped. She stepped closer to him, her robe flowing like water as she walked. Her eyes, sharp as polished steel, studied him. Aaron wanted to look away, but her gaze held him in place. "You spoke with no fear," she said. "In front of my guards, you offered yourself. I accept because I see strength in you. Few would dare such boldness." Aaron's mouth opened, but only a weak sound came out. He wanted to tell her he had not been bold but foolish, that it had been nothing more than nervous words. Yet something in her tone stopped him. She spoke with complete certainty, as though his intentions did not matter. Two guards stepped forward and gestured for him to follow. Aaron's legs felt heavy, but he obeyed. The princess turned, her staff tapping lightly on the floor as she led the way deeper into the ship. They walked through long, glowing corridors. The walls were carved with strange patterns that pulsed with soft light. Other aliens moved aside as the group passed. Their faces showed shock, confusion, and even fear when they looked at Aaron. He realized news of his so-called proposal was already spreading among the crew. Finally, they reached a chamber filled with soft light from crystals in the ceiling. At the center stood a tall throne carved from a dark, shining stone. The princess sat gracefully upon it, while the guards formed a circle around the room. Aaron was guided to stand before her. "I am Solara, heir to the Elari throne," she declared. "You will speak your name so that it is known to all." Aaron cleared his throat, still unsure of what else to do. "My name is Aaron. I am a technician on the human ship Horizon." The guards murmured softly at his words, perhaps surprised by the simplicity of his title. Solara raised her hand, silencing them. "Aaron of Horizon," she said, her voice steady, "you are bound by honor to me. From this moment, you are not only guest but chosen. Our law does not allow such vows to be broken. To deny them would bring dishonor not only to me, but to your people as well." Aaron's stomach sank. He understood now why her guards had knelt, why the chanting had begun. This was not a small mistake. In her culture, words had power, and once spoken, they could not be taken back. He thought of trying again to explain. He could say it was not serious, that humans did not mean such things in the same way. But then he imagined the result. If he made her lose face in front of her own guards, it could create anger, maybe even war. One joke had placed him in the middle of a situation bigger than himself. Solara leaned forward slightly. "Do you wish to deny me now, Aaron of Horizon?" The room grew silent. Every guard watched him, their hands resting on the hilts of their weapons. Aaron's chest tightened. He wanted to shout that he was not ready for this, that it was all a mistake, but the words stuck in his throat. At last, he gave a slow nod. "No, Princess Solara. I do not deny you." The tension in the room eased. The guards stood straighter, some nodding with approval. Solara's lips curved into the smallest smile, the first sign of softness he had seen on her face. "Then it is settled," she said. "You are accepted." The guards struck the floor with their staffs in unison, a sound that echoed like thunder. Aaron flinched, but Solara rose to her feet and walked down from the throne. She stood close to him, her presence both graceful and commanding. "You will be taken to the royal palace," she said. "There, the council will see you and know my choice." Aaron felt his knees weaken. Palace. Council. Choice. Each word made his situation more real. He was no longer just a technician on a simple repair job. Somehow, he had been pulled into the center of an alien empire. As the guards escorted him through the corridors once more, he noticed the way other aliens stared at him. Some looked curious, others suspicious, and a few even hostile. Whispers followed him like shadows. He had become something important in their eyes, though he did not understand why. When they reached a chamber prepared for guests, the guards stepped aside. One spoke in a deep voice. "You will rest here until the ship arrives at the home world. Food will be brought. You are under royal protection now." Aaron entered the chamber. It was larger than his cabin on Horizon, with walls that glowed softly and furniture carved from smooth stone. A bed rested against the wall, covered in silver fabric. He sat heavily upon it, his mind spinning. The door closed behind him, leaving him in silence. He buried his face in his hands. He had come to fix a broken machine. Now he was caught in an alien tradition he barely understood. One careless joke had turned into a promise that could shape the fate of two peoples. Lying back on the bed, he stared at the glowing ceiling. He wanted to believe this was all a dream, that he would wake up back in his shuttle, tools in hand. But the memory of Solara's sharp eyes and calm voice told him it was real. Somewhere beyond the stars, the horizon was still waiting for him. He wondered what his captain would say when they learned their technician had been claimed as the future husband of an alien princess. For now, he could only wait and hope that he would find a way to survive the path he had stepped onto. The Ilari ship glided through space like a silent predator. Its surface glowed with faint light, and its engines moved without sound. Aaron sat in his chamber, staring at the strange walls that pulsed gently like the veins of a living creature. Time passed slowly. He had no window to see the stars, only the steady glow of the crystals above. He thought again and again about what had happened. He had made a joke, and now he was considered the future husband of a princess. He wanted to laugh at the madness of it, but each time he remembered the guard's serious eyes, the weight of their tradition, and the calm certainty of Princess Solara. To them, this was no mistake. To them, his words had been sacred. A soft chime came from the door. It opened, and a figure stepped inside. Solara herself entered, her robe flowing like water. 2 guards stood outside but did not follow her in. Aaron quickly stood, unsure of what was proper. "Sit," Solara said in her calm voice. "You are under no chains here. You may rest as you wish." Aaron nodded and sat back down, though his hands twisted nervously in his lap. Solara walked across the chamber and studied him. Her gaze was sharp, yet not cruel. "You are quiet," she said. "Do you regret the words you spoke?" Aaron hesitated. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to explain it had only been a joke. But again, he feared how she would react. Instead, he chose safer words. "I did not expect them to mean so much here," he said slowly. "On my world, such words are not binding. They are spoken lightly, sometimes only in humor." Solara tilted her head, her crown catching the light. "Strange," she said. "Among the Ilari, words are as strong as steel. A promise is not dust in the air. It binds the heart and the honor of the one who speaks it. To give your words without meaning is seen as weakness. Yet you gave them boldly." Aaron lowered his eyes. "I was nervous. I was trying to calm myself." For a long moment, Solara was silent. Then she stepped closer. "Perhaps you did not intend it, but I believe there is truth hidden in your spirit. You are not like the warriors of my people, yet you have courage. I saw it when you faced me without fear." Aaron almost laughed. Fear had filled him from head to toe, but he bit back his reply. It was clear Solara had chosen to see his words as strength, and he could not change her mind. Before he could answer, the door opened again. An older alien entered, wearing long robes marked with silver lines. His face was stern, his eyes narrow. He bowed slightly to Solara, then glanced at Aaron. "Princess," the elder said, "the council must be informed before arrival. They will not be pleased." "I am aware," Solara replied. The elder frowned. "Forgive my boldness, but choosing a human? The council values tradition. They will see this as weakness. The people may question your judgment." Solara's voice turned firm. "The council advises, but I decide. Their doubt does not change my will." The elder's eyes shifted back to Aaron, full of suspicion. He studied him as though Aaron were a broken tool. "Does he even know our customs? Can he even stand in a hall of honor without shame? This choice may bring division, not strength." Aaron's cheeks burned. He wanted to defend himself, but he had no knowledge of their customs. He was a stranger in every way. Solara raised her hand, silencing the elder. "He will learn," she said. "He will face the council. Let them see with their own eyes." The elder bowed again, though his eyes still carried doubt. He left the chamber, the door sliding shut behind him. Aaron let out a breath he had been holding. "He does not like me," he said softly. Solara's gaze did not waver. "The council respects strength above all. They do not yet see yours. They believe humans are weak because your bodies are not as strong as ours, your weapons not as old as ours. But strength is not only muscle or blade. If you prove this, their voices will fall silent." Aaron shook his head. "I am not a warrior. I fix things. Machines, relays, tools. I cannot fight your battles." Solara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "A kingdom needs more than warriors. A clever mind can win wars that swords cannot. I believe you will show them." Aaron was not sure if she truly believed this or if she only spoke to comfort him. Either way, he felt the weight of her faith pressing on him. The next day, the ship reached the Ilari homeworld. Through the window of a transport craft, Aaron saw a planet covered in silver seas and green continents marked with shining cities. Towers rose high, their tops glowing with crystal light. Vast bridges stretched between cliffs, and ships moved like birds through the skies. It was beautiful, yet intimidating. They landed at a palace carved into the side of a mountain. Its walls gleamed like polished stone, and waterfalls poured down beside tall stairways. Guards in shining armor lined the entrance. Aaron followed Solara into the grand hall. The council awaited them. 10 elders sat in a half-circle, their robes long, their faces serious. Their eyes turned sharply toward Aaron as he entered. He felt their judgment like cold air against his skin. Solara stood tall at the center. "Honored council," she said, her voice echoing. "This is Aaron of Horizon. He has spoken words that bind him to me. By law, he is my chosen partner." The hall filled with whispers. Some elders shook their heads. One, with a scar across his cheek, spoke louder. "A human? This is folly. He has no honor among us. He has no strength. How can he stand beside our princess?" Another elder added, "If this is your choice, he must prove himself. If he fails, the people will not accept him." Aaron's stomach twisted. He had known this moment was coming, but hearing it aloud filled him with dread. Solara lifted her staff. "Then let him face a trial. Not of the body alone, but of the mind and spirit. If he passes, you will have no right to deny him." The elders murmured again. At last, the eldest among them, a woman with silver hair and steady eyes, nodded. "So it shall be. The human will be tested. If he survives, he may stand at your side. If he fails, you must release him." The hall grew silent. Aaron stood in the center, feeling the weight of every eye upon him. He had come as a technician to fix a broken machine, yet now he was trapped in a test that could decide not only his fate but perhaps the future of his people. He swallowed hard, his mind racing. He did not know their customs, their trials, or their ways. But he knew one thing. Whatever test awaited him, he would have to rely on the only strength he truly trusted, his human mind. The council chamber was silent after the eldest elder spoke. Aaron stood stiff, feeling every stare from the elders like arrows piercing his skin. The words of Solara echoed in his ears. He would face a trial, and if he failed, his bond with the princess would be broken. A part of him wanted to shout that this was not his choice, that he never asked for this, but another part reminded him that the situation had already gone too far. His careless joke had set this path, and now he had to walk it. Solara stepped closer to him, her presence calm and commanding. "Do not fear, she said softly, though her voice carried through the chamber. The test will not be of brute strength alone. It is designed to show the truth of a person's spirit. You will find a way. Aaron nodded weakly. His stomach twisted with nerves. He had never been tested before except in training as a technician, where mistakes meant broken machines, not life or death. Yet there was no escape now. The elders rose from their seats, and the scarred elder spoke. Tomorrow at first light, the human will enter the trial arena. There he will prove his worth, or he will leave this hall in shame. 2 guards escorted Aaron back to his chamber, where he paced the floor endlessly. He touched the smooth walls, wishing for a piece of old machinery to tinker with, something to calm his racing thoughts. But there was nothing. Only silence, broken by the sound of his own heartbeat. That night he barely slept. He lay awake on the silver bed, staring at the glowing ceiling. His mind kept imagining the trial. Would it be combat? A puzzle? Some cruel test made to humiliate him? He did not know. All he knew was that failing would not only end his strange bond with Solara but might also stain the reputation of humans in the eyes of the Ilari forever. At dawn, guards came for him. They led him through winding halls until he emerged into the open air. The trial arena was built into the mountainside, a great circle of stone surrounded by tall walls and glowing crystals. Thousands of Ilari filled the seats, their eyes locked on the center platform where Aaron now stood. Solara watched from a high balcony, her expression unreadable. The council sat beside her, their robes shining in the morning light. Aaron stood alone in the vast circle, his hands empty, his heart racing. A booming voice filled the arena, spoken by the elder with the scar. Human Aaron of Horizon, you stand before the people of the Ilari. You have spoken words that bind you to our princess, but you have not yet shown your worth. By law, you must face the trial of honor. Survive, and you may remain at her side. Fail, and you will be cast out. The crowd murmured in anticipation. Then the ground beneath Aaron shook. Panels opened, and strange machines rose from the stone floor. They were tall metal constructs shaped like warriors, their arms ending in glowing blades and heavy shields. Their eyes shone red, and their heads turned toward him like hunting animals. Aaron's blood ran cold. These were not living opponents but training machines, designed for combat. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his mind and his quick hands. The machines began to move forward, their steps heavy against the stone. Panic struck him for a moment, but then he forced himself to breathe. He was not a warrior, but he was a technician. Machines had weaknesses. Machines could be broken. As the first construct lunged, Aaron dove to the side. The glowing blade struck the ground where he had stood, leaving a deep mark. He scrambled toward the edge of the arena, where one of the panels had not closed fully. Through the small gap, he saw wires and glowing cores powering the machines. His heart leaped. This was something he understood. Dodging another strike, he pulled a small multi-tool from the pocket of his belt. It was the only thing he had carried, a habit of never leaving his ship without it. To others it was just a tool, but to him it was hope. He darted toward the gap and jammed the tool inside, cutting one of the wires. Sparks flew, and one of the constructs staggered, its movements slowing. The crowd gasped. Aaron smiled for the first time that morning. He had found a way. The other machines closed in, but now he knew their secret. They were strong and fast, but they were still machines. He dashed between them, dodging their glowing blades and searching for weak points. Each time he found a gap, he struck with his tool, cutting wires, twisting circuits, forcing systems to shut down. The battle turned into a dance of survival. Aaron's body ached, his breath came fast, but his mind stayed sharp. He used his knowledge of systems, his instinct for repairs, and turned them into weapons. One by one, the constructs fell, their red eyes dimming as their power failed. The crowd's murmurs grew into shouts. At first they had expected to see him crushed in moments. Now they saw something else. They saw a human who fought not with muscle but with cleverness. A human who turned weakness into strength. At last, the final machine fell with a loud crash, smoke rising from its broken circuits. Aaron stood in the center of the arena, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. His hands shook, but he was still standing. The arena fell silent for a long breath. Then the sound of staffs striking stone filled the air. The crowd rose to their feet, shouting, cheering. Aaron blinked in disbelief. They were not mocking him. They were praising him. On the balcony, the council sat with unreadable faces, but even they could not deny what they had seen. Solara, however, smiled openly. Her eyes met his, and she gave the smallest nod, a silent message of pride. The elder with silver hair rose and spoke. The trial is complete. The human has faced the machines of war and stood victorious. He did not use strength of body, but strength of mind. This too is honor. The crowd roared again, their voices echoing through the mountains. Aaron sank to his knees, relief flooding through him. He had survived. He had proved himself, not as a warrior, but as what he truly was, a human who built, repaired, and adapted. Solara stood tall beside the council. Let all who doubt see now, she declared. Humans may not be as we are, but they have their own strength. Aaron has shown this today. Aaron raised his eyes to her. For the first time since this strange journey began, he felt a spark of pride. He had not failed. He had shown them who he truly was. And deep within, he knew this was only the beginning. The cheers of the crowd still echoed in Aaron's ears long after the trial ended. He had walked out of the arena alive, though his arms ached and his knees felt weak. To him, it had been a desperate scramble to stay alive, but to the Ilari, it had been a show of human strength and cleverness. Many who had doubted him now whispered with curiosity instead of scorn. Solara walked beside him as guards led them back into the palace. Her steps were steady, her robe flowing like liquid light. She said little, but when she glanced at Aaron, there was pride in her eyes. You stood where others thought you would fall, she said at last. Now they must look at you differently. Aaron rubbed his sore hands. I only did what I knew. I fixed things. I broke the machines in the same way I would repair one. That is why you succeeded, Solara replied. Warriors think only of force. You thought of another path. Aaron gave a weak smile, though inside, he still felt like an outsider in a world he barely understood. That night, a feast was held in the grand hall of the palace. Long tables were covered with shining plates of fruit, bread, and glowing drinks. Musicians played strange instruments that filled the air with soft, echoing tones. Elders sat at the head table, and nobles filled the room with laughter and whispers. Aaron sat beside Solara. He tried to eat, though many eyes still followed him. Some nobles smiled politely, but others looked at him with cold suspicion. He felt the weight of their judgment with every bite. As the music rose, a group of nobles gathered near the far end of the hall. Aaron noticed their sharp glances and hushed words. Something about them unsettled him. They did not clap when Solara stood to speak, and they did not raise their cups when others toasted to the trial's outcome. Later, when the feast ended and Solara prepared to leave, Aaron stayed behind for a moment. He walked quietly through one of the side corridors, seeking air. The palace walls were lined with glowing stones, casting soft light on the floor. He heard voices ahead. Pausing, he pressed himself against the wall and listened. "The people cheer now," one voice said, low and bitter. "But it will not last. A human has no place at her side. Solara weakens the empire with this choice," another voice answered. "The council hesitates, but we will not. When the time comes, the shields will fall, and our true allies will arrive. Then she will lose her throne." Aaron's chest tightened. He leaned closer, hearing the sound of armor shifting. "Do not speak so loudly," the first voice warned. "But you are right. We have prepared for this. The rebels in the city are ready. Once the defense shields are broken, our empire will bow to a new ruler." The voices faded as the nobles walked away, their steps echoing down the hall. Aaron stayed frozen for a moment, his mind racing. Rebels. Broken shields. Allies. This was no simple argument among nobles. It was a plan to overthrow Solara. He stepped back, his heart pounding. He could run to Solara now and tell her what he had heard, but what if she thought he lied? The council already doubted him. If he accused nobles without proof, they might claim he was only trying to protect himself. Still, he could not stay silent. He made his way back to Solara's chamber, where guards stood watch. When they let him in, he found her studying maps on a glowing table. She looked up at him with calm eyes. "You look troubled," she said. Aaron took a breath. "I heard something. Two nobles in the corridor. They spoke of rebellion. They plan to break your defense shields. They said they have allies ready to attack." Solara's gaze sharpened. She set down her staff. "You are certain of what you heard?" "Yes," Aaron said firmly. "I would not invent this." They spoke clearly. For a long moment, Solara was silent. Then she nodded. "I believe you. There have been whispers of unrest, but no proof. Now we must prepare." She called her guards and spoke in firm tones. Orders were sent at once. Scouts were dispatched to watch the city, and engineers were summoned to examine the shield systems. Aaron stood to the side, feeling both relieved and nervous. He had done his part, but the danger was real. If the rebels struck, the empire could fall into chaos. Later that night, Solara spoke with him again. "You chose to tell me what you heard. Many would have kept silent out of fear. This shows loyalty." Aaron shook his head. "I just did what was right. If they succeed, it will hurt not only you but also my people. Humans are new to the stars. If your empire falls, others may blame us." Solara studied him for a moment. "Perhaps you see farther than my own council. They think only of power and tradition. You think of survival." Aaron gave a small smile, though his chest still felt heavy with worry. He did not want to be at the center of an empire's struggle, yet here he was, bound by words he had never meant to speak. The next day, the warnings proved true. Scouts reported strange movements in the city below. Groups of rebels were gathering, hidden among the crowds. Engineers discovered tampered circuits in the shield generators. Someone had been working from within to weaken the defenses. Solara gathered her council. Some argued it was nothing but rumors, but when the damaged circuits were shown, they fell silent. Solara stood tall before them. "We face not only rebels within our walls," she declared, "but also enemies beyond. They wait for our weakness. If the shields fall, they will strike." The council looked uneasy. The scarred elder shook his head. "If you are right, then we must prepare for war." Aaron listened quietly at the edge of the hall. He knew war was no small matter. Yet he also knew that humans had always survived by working together, by adapting. If Solara's people could do the same, perhaps they could stand against the threat. That night, the city lights glowed beneath the palace balcony. Aaron stood there alone, staring out at the towers and bridges. Somewhere among those lights, rebels plotted to overthrow Solara. Somewhere beyond the stars, allies of the rebels waited for the shields to fall. He clenched his fists. He was only a technician, yet he had been pulled into something far larger. For the first time, he felt a quiet determination rise within him. He would not run. He would not stay silent. He would help Solara hold her throne, no matter how strange the path had become. The night air was heavy inside the palace. Torches burned along the walls, and the hum of the defense shields echoed faintly like a low heartbeat. Aaron walked the halls with a restless mind. The words he had overheard from the rebels haunted him. Somewhere in the city, enemies were preparing to strike. Somewhere in the palace, traitors still wore the robes of nobles and smiled with false loyalty. Solara stood at the war table, her staff glowing faintly as she studied the shield system on a wide screen. Her generals stood around her, arguing about strategies, but her voice was steady. "The rebels will move soon," she said. "They will not wait once they know we are watching. When they strike, they will strike at the heart." Aaron stepped closer. "The palace?" Solara nodded. "Yes. If they can take the palace, they can claim the throne. The people will believe their lies if we fall here." The council elders whispered in unease, but Aaron spoke up again. "Then we make the palace the strongest point. Let them come. If we hold here, the people will see their princess stand unbroken." Solara's eyes met his. For a moment, she looked as though she wanted to smile, but instead she turned to her generals. "Prepare the defenses." The next day, the city grew tense. Scouts reported rebel groups moving closer to the palace. Smoke rose from the lower districts where skirmishes had already begun. The shield engineers worked frantically to repair the damage done to the generators. Aaron stayed by their side, crawling through narrow passages and fixing circuits with his steady hands. He knew machines better than swords, and this was where he could help most. Then, as night fell, the attack began. A deep rumble shook the ground. Explosions flashed outside the walls, and the shields flared as enemy fire struck them. Alarms echoed through the palace. Guards rushed to the gates, weapons glowing as they prepared for battle. Aaron ran to the upper balcony with Solara. From there, they could see the city below. Fires burned in the streets. Rebel banners waved as groups of armored fighters marched toward the palace. But worse than the rebels were the ships that appeared above the horizon. Dark and sharp, they cut through the sky like predators. These were not Solara's people. They were the outside allies, the ones waiting for the empire to fall. Solara's voice was calm but firm. "The outsiders have come. Just as you said." Aaron swallowed hard. "Then this is more than a rebellion. This is an invasion." The palace shook again as the rebels at the gates began their assault. The shields around the city flickered weakly, the damaged circuits struggling to hold. Aaron could see at once that they would not last long. "I need to get to the shield core," he told Solara. If it falls, those ships will land, and then it's over. Solara placed a hand on his shoulder. You will not go alone. I will send guards with you. But Aaron shook his head. The rebels are already inside the city. If your guards leave you, they will strike here. You need them more than I do. I can move faster alone. Solara's eyes narrowed, torn between command and trust. At last, she nodded. Then go, human. And return alive. Aaron ran through the halls, guided by the low hum of the shield systems. Smoke filled the corridors as explosions shook the palace walls. Twice, he had to duck as rebels broke through side passages, but he slipped past them, using hidden service tunnels he had discovered while working with the engineers. At last, he reached the core chamber. The great machine pulsed with weak light, sparks flying from broken wires. 2 rebels were already inside, trying to sabotage it further. Aaron's heart raced. He had no weapon, only his toolkit. But he remembered the arena, how he had survived by using his mind. He picked up a small piece of metal and threw it against the far wall. The rebels turned at the sound. In that moment, Aaron rushed forward, grabbing one of the fallen panels and swinging it with all his strength. The clash of metal rang out, and the rebels stumbled. Aaron used the opening to dash past them, sliding into the maintenance hatch of the core. Inside the machine, the air was hot, wires sparking dangerously. Aaron worked quickly, his hands moving with desperate focus. He pulled out burned cables, rewired connections, and reset power lines. Each second felt like an hour. Behind him, the rebels shouted and tried to break through the hatch. Come on, Aaron muttered to himself. Hold together, just hold. Finally, the core flared with new light. The hum grew louder, steady and strong. Across the city, the shields brightened, glowing like a wall of fire against the sky. The enemy ships that had begun their descent slammed into the renewed barrier, their weapons sparking uselessly against it. Aaron collapsed for a moment, sweat running down his face. But there was no time to rest. The hatch burst open, and the 2 rebels charged. Aaron grabbed a loose cable, sparks dancing at the end, and swung it wildly. The flash startled the rebels long enough for palace guards to arrive, cutting them down with swift strikes. You did it, one guard said. The shields are holding. Aaron nodded weakly. Get back to the princess. She needs you. Meanwhile, in the throne hall, Solara faced her greatest test. Rebels had forced their way into the palace itself. Her guards stood firm, their weapons clashing with traitors who once wore the same armor. Solara moved like a storm among them, her staff glowing as she struck down those who dared to challenge her. When Aaron returned, he saw the hall filled with smoke and fire. Solara stood at the center, unbroken, her robes torn but her stance strong. He rushed to her side, shouting above the chaos. The shields are safe. The city still stands. Her eyes lit with fierce pride. Then we fight to the end. Together, they pushed forward. Aaron was no warrior, but he grabbed a fallen spear and fought beside her, blocking strikes and forcing back rebels with raw determination. Solara's strength and his quick thinking turned the tide. Slowly, the rebels began to falter. Outside, the people of the city saw the palace still standing, the shields burning bright, and their princess unshaken. Their faith returned. Loyal citizens rose in the streets, driving back the rebels. The enemy ships, unable to land, retreated into the dark sky. By dawn, the battle was over. Smoke rose from the city, but the palace still stood tall. The rebellion had failed. Solara stood on the balcony, looking over her people. Aaron stood beside her, exhausted but alive. She raised her staff high. The empire still stands, because we stand together. The crowd below erupted in cheers. Aaron felt his heart pound as the sound filled the air. For the first time, he did not feel like an outsider. He felt like he belonged. And in Solara's steady gaze, he saw not only gratitude but something deeper, a bond forged in fire and danger, a bond that could not be broken. The sun rose slowly over the shining towers of the Ilari capital. Its golden light touched the palace walls, glinting off the repaired shields that now stood strong around the city. For the first time in many nights, peace seemed possible. The smoke of battle drifted away, and the sound of rebuilding filled the air instead of war. Aaron stood on the palace balcony, watching the people below. Crowds filled the streets, cheering for their princess. Traders opened their stalls again, and children laughed as they ran across the bridges. The empire had survived the rebellion, but its wounds were deep. He felt both proud and tired. His hands still bore scratches from the shield core, and his body ached from the battle in the throne hall. He was no soldier, but somehow he had stood alongside Solara and endured. Solara soon joined him on the balcony. She wore new robes, bright with royal colors, though her face carried the calm strength of one who had fought and triumphed. She looked out at her people, her eyes steady. "They see victory," she said softly. "But they also see hope. That hope must not fade." Aaron nodded. "They'll follow you. They trust you." Solara turned her gaze to him. "Not only me. They saw you fight. They saw you stand when others fled. You are no longer just a stranger in their eyes." Aaron laughed lightly, though there was no mockery in it. "I never meant for any of this. I only wanted to repair a relay and go home." "And yet you repaired more than circuits," Solara said. "You repaired trust. You reminded us that strength is not only in power, but in will." Her words left Aaron quiet. He had not thought of himself that way. To him, he had only done what needed to be done. But in Solara's voice, he heard truth. Later that day, the council gathered in the great hall. The surviving elders stood before Solara, their expressions mixed with respect and unease. The rebellion had left them shaken. They could no longer deny that Aaron had played a part in saving the empire. The scarred elder stepped forward. His voice was rough but firm. "Princess Solara, the council acknowledges your victory. The rebellion has been crushed, and the outsiders have fled. But we must face what has changed. Your people saw the human fight beside you. They call him ally. Some even call him protector." Murmurs filled the hall. Aaron shifted uncomfortably under so many eyes. Solara raised her staff. The hall fell silent. "This human stood with me when others betrayed me. He risked his life for shields that were not his own. He fought in halls not built for him. He did this not for power, but for loyalty. In my eyes, he is no outsider. He is my chosen." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. At last, the scarred elder bowed. "Then so it shall be. The council accepts." A great cheer rose outside the hall, for word spread quickly through the palace. People shouted Aaron's name, mixing it with Solara's. Aaron's face burned, but he could not help but smile. In the days that followed, peace slowly returned. Loyal soldiers hunted down the last of the rebels, while workers rebuilt damaged streets. The people carried banners not of division but of unity, showing the princess and the human together. Aaron spent his days helping where he could. He repaired machines, trained engineers, and even taught children simple tricks of human technology. Wherever he went, he was greeted with respect. He still felt strange wearing that honor, but he accepted it. One evening, Solara invited him to the throne hall. It was quiet, the torches casting gentle light on the tall walls. She stood at the center, waiting. "You have given much to this empire," she said. "But I must ask you something more. When you spoke the words you would make a cute wife, you did not know their meaning in my culture. Yet those words have bound us. At first, I thought it only tradition. But now I see more." Aaron's heart raced. He remembered that careless joke, spoken in fear. "Solara, I never meant to." She lifted her hand, stopping him. "I know. But I have seen your courage. I have seen your heart. I do not choose because of tradition. I choose because I wish it. I ask you now, not as princess, but as Solara, will you walk beside me, not as guest, but as partner?" The hall was silent. Aaron felt the weight of the choice. Part of him longed for home, for earth, for the simple life he once knew. But another part of him looked at Solara, at the fire in her eyes, and at the people who now saw him as one of their own. He took a breath and stepped forward. "Yes. I will stay. I will walk beside you." Solara's eyes softened, and for the first time, a true smile spread across her face. She reached out, and he took her hand. When the news spread the next morning, the city erupted in celebration. Bells rang, music filled the streets, and banners of light glowed across the towers. The people cheered not only for their princess but for the union of two worlds. The empire would not forget the rebellion, nor the danger of the outsiders. Challenges would come again. But now, with Solara and Aaron standing together, there was a new bond between human and Ilari. On the balcony, as the crowd roared below, Aaron whispered to himself, half in disbelief, half in wonder. All of this, from one careless joke. Solara heard and laughed softly. Sometimes destiny chooses strange beginnings. And as the golden sun set over the shining city, Aaron knew his life had changed forever. Not by chance, not by accident, but by choice. Together with Solara, he would face whatever came next. It was not the end. It was only the beginning of something greater.